They've got a new.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I think we're slowly seeing participants coming in. Yeah, we're getting trickling down. So, as people start coming in, say welcome to our first, I guess, episode of the year for Breakout Beauty's How to Break Out in 2026 webinar series. It's an exciting one for a lot of us. And we've got some really special guests here today that we're really excited. Paul is going to introduce them in a few minutes. But I think whilst people are still kind of coming in and trickling down, I'd love to actually get people started. I'll put in a little question to people ask if there's any founders in the attendees list today and seeing if there's any brands that we should be getting to know. But Paul, why don't you give anyone a quick intro and then later I'm going to kick off with some housekeeping for everyone to.
I love the transformation of Sonia's voice to stop talking. We've got to start. um, Hi, everyone. I'm Paul. I'm one of the directors of Breakout Beauty UK. We are Europe's biggest beauty accelerator. Our mission is to try and find the next generation of fantastic founders like Erim, like Meg, and help them scale their business, help them get into retail, and help them become the next 50 or £100 million brand. We are here to try and help as many founders as possible, people that are beginning their scaling journey, people that are at the start of that journey. And what we wanted to do was bring in Erim and Meg, who've both got really interesting, quite different journeys to how they've gone mainstream with their brands and really understand how they got to where they are. So I'll introduce them shortly, but this is the first, as Sonia said, to a number of webinars that we're doing. Please keep up to date on growstudio.com and on our Eventbrite as we start to launch more and more webinars. We've got some brilliant people from across the beauty ecosystem that'll be sharing tips, tricks, and tactics that you can all use to try and scale your business. So with that aside, two of the standout brands that we had on Breakout Beauty last year have very kindly given up some of their very busy time to join us to share some of their experiences. I'm not a massive proponent of introducing people on their behalf. I think they can always say it a lot more articulately. So first of all, Meg, I'd love it if you could introduce yourself and your brand, please.
Hey everyone, I'm Meg. It's really such a pleasure to be here. I'm the founder of Striā Lab, and we provide science-backed solutions to stretch marks.
Perfect. And Erim.
So I'm Erim. I'm the proud founder of By Erim, luxury hair and beard care. We combine Ayurvedic ingredients with British science. I'm a training trichologist, and then I was the one of the winners of the Breakout Beauty inaugural class.
Amazing. Amazing. And as with every one of these webinars, if you've got any questions, comments, challenges, reflections, please put them in the chat. We've got plenty of time at the end for a Q&A, so you can ask all of the questions to Meg, Erin, and myself at the end. But today I really want to explore how you both got here, what you've learned along the way, and most importantly, what the future people like you can learn and apply to their own businesses. So you've both got quite interesting backgrounds to how you came to launching a beauty brand, and I'm really interested to know, what that journey was to day one of deciding I'm going to launch a beauty brand. Erin, start with you.
So I graduated, I tried with a bunch of jobs and I just kept getting fired. So I knew entrepreneurship and owning my own business was, to be honest, the only choice I had. I can't fire myself. And in doing so, I was posting a lot on social media and I had around 100K followers on social media by the time that I launched my business. But it took me a year to do so. So I had originally grown up having lost my mum. I developed alopecia. My grandmother had created a formula which really helped restore my confidence. And at that point, I just knew it was always going to be called By Erim. It was always going to be black and gold. It was always going to be the hair oil. And that led me to December the 9th, 2019, and I did my first drop.
And growing that social media presence, was that with a view to then launch a product, or was that
Not at the time. Yeah, not at the time. I wasn't that strategic. I was 22, so I was very much like looking for other girls that might have grown up like me without a mom in a male-dominated household. And it was a very selfish thing. I just wanted people that I could relate to and that I could connect with. And it very authentically grew.
Perfect. And Meg, going from mining to startup entrepreneur,
Yeah,
how
I
did
know,
that?
right? I've got a glamorous background. Yeah, I think for me, it's probably helpful if I take a step back before Striā Lab because I was working in corporate land, um, most recently at Barclays. So I was there for a few years in like communications and marketing there. And I knew that I wanted to leave and do my own thing. I had no idea what it would be. I thought maybe a comms agency. But a friend of mine actually said, why don't you launch a product? And I was like, what am I going to do? Like a credit card? I work in banking. So I just stopped and thought, like for ages, I had all sorts of ideas before I even landed in the beauty space. Maybe that's for another day, some good ones. Um, but I actually left Barclays to start a brand called Beached. So not as completely separate to Striā Lab where I am now. And Beached is all about Aussie beauty, basically. Because I recognize that when we were going to the pub after work, people were like taking half an hour to do their makeup before coming out. And I was like, what's this about? It's so something that I'm not used to. So I ended up leaving to start Beached. I did a fundraise. I put together a board before I even had product. So a completely different journey. I ended up closing that down, well, actually selling it for a nominal price. Just when I had my daughter, my first child, because I was getting diluted too thin. We were going to have to go back out and raise much more money, and I just didn't think it was the right thing. So I did have like a really good experience, which has guided a lot of my thinking now in Striā Lab. So I just want to give that as a bit of background. But I started Striā Lab basically then on the back of having my daughter again. So I developed really deep red stretch marks when I was pregnant. And it was really confronting. I'd wake up every day, I'd look at my tummy, and I'd be like, just really scared of how deep the marks would be. Are they gotten any longer? Have I gotten new ones? And it was a journey that I knew like so many people were on, but it just wasn't documented. Like I spent ages on Instagram looking at, what my stretch marks look like in 6 months, in 12 months. And there was nothing. People weren't really talking about it. And then when I went looking for help afterwards, I went into Boots and Space NK, and one of the classic things I was recommended was Brazilian bum cream. If anyone knows it, it's not going to help with the stretch marks. So really, my journey with Striā Lab started with just white space and trying to answer that and solve a problem that I had and I knew so many other people had. Sorry, that was long-winded, but I want
No,
that context to be there for the future questions.
so was it deliberate? Did the two things come together, wanting to work for yourself and finding an opportunity, or did you find the opportunity for a product that you didn't have or didn't exist and go, that's my business?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to be my own boss. I didn't like having to be answerable to anyone, getting into an office a certain time and doing that. I didn't want to have to be, yeah, I wanted to be a free agent basically. So I knew there was something going to happen, and I went looking for it. And yeah, um, before Beached, I thought I was actually about to start a sexual health company. So very different. I just knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Fair enough. That could be the third business.
Yeah, it's already done now.
Yeah, it feels like by Erim hair oils started, God, 15, 20 years ago. It feels so ingrained with your childhood and your memories. Talk us through that and the product and how the product originated and how it became by Erim.
Yeah. So, I always preface this by saying it's a sad story, but like it has a good ending. So, my mom had cancer and lost her hair, then she passed away. But she really was that mom. And I say to people like at the school gates, I'd be so gassed for her to be the one picking me up. Like she was so beautiful. And it was, her face as well as her hair. She had really long, beautiful black hair. So, as a young girl with no aunties, no cousins, no sisters, she was the only model of what was beautiful to me. So I always looked to emulate her. And when the opposite happened to me, my hair fell out because of alopecia areata, it was horrifying. And my grandma really did what she could, my daddy. We were sat in the kitchen that they still live in today, and it's a very like nostalgic being in her kitchen because I'm like, wow, like this is where this multi-million pound business was first ideated, not in my head when I lost my jobs, you know? And we tried everything. We did the honey, we did the black seed, the mustard, the egg, all of those like yucky things. And truth be told, some of them do work. They condition your hair and it's good. But the smell, the stickiness, the unusability meant that myself as a, 9-year-old girl, I didn't want to go to school with mustard oil in my hair. So there was a really, really nice spot that my grandma and I knew we were working towards, which was something that made me feel good, restored my confidence, but it actually did have an impact regarding the health of my scalp and my hair.
And how did that come to being the bottled product? What was your first MVP? How did you get that, secret family source and start to create a product? What was the process you took?
I mean, the first step was the hardest. I don't know if you've ever asked an Indian grandma if she's written down the recipe to anything. So we had to like go through it quite a few times to make sure, no, that's the exact one that we wanted. Because no lab is going to be like, yeah, just a spoon of this and a dash of this. So that was the hardest step. Once I had my formula down, I was looking for a manufacturer that could make it for me because I knew I wanted to start my business on the right foot. I actually, in the process of looking for manufacturers, I had an amazing, amazing woman speak to me and give me advice. And truth be told, it was a rejection wrapped very nicely. But in the rejection, I saw that she said, you have to work backwards. So, where you see your brand in the long term, you need to make sure that all the groundwork has been done from day one. Don't do it homemade and make it in your kitchen because that's not legal. And then there will be a backlog of consumer issues and batch issues, 5, 10 years down the line when you're looking to potentially sell it. So, I really went ahead and pushed with that. And I had a very small order quantity to begin with. It was 250 units. That was all I could afford. I was working at nightclubs and that was my tips. So I spoke to a guy. He really didn't take me seriously. He was very old school in Scotland. He must have been about 56 years old, 60, and ex-Unilever. Didn't understand what an influencer was, didn't get that I was doing a drop, and managed to convince him to take us on. And once we done that, we got the packaging, we got the stickers, a labor of love, very much so when it comes to packaging. And then we were ready.
Perfect. Any mistakes along the way?
I really spent a lot of time on the sticker. And to this day, packaging is one of the hardest things that I find in my business. And I asked someone and they found it in about 30 minutes, the manufacturer for me. So I think the biggest lesson I learned, and it had taken me 3 months, the biggest lesson I learned was like ask for help.
Fair. And then Meg, there's more complexities, I guess, with trying to find an efficacious product that Soul supports, helps with stretch marks. You took more of a sort of research first route, right?
Yeah, 100%. So we just read endless clinical journals and trying to find what actually works in treating stretch marks. And literally all that was coming through were two ingredients. One was tretinoin, which is a prescription retinol. So not suitable if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. And the other was Teca, which is a titrated extract of Centella asiatica. And that had really strong clinical evidence, not just for treating stretch marks, but also preventing them as well. So we use it at its maximum recommended dose across the entire range.
And how did you deal with getting your head around the complexities of using chemicals that I would never be able to spell, of trying to understand the regulation around claims and how that was going to work?
Yeah, I had a lot of that background from the beach days. So I mean, I'm not a chemist, but I know what works, and I work with really good chemists to make the products. And I do a lot of research into the ingredients that I want within the product. So I don't sort of claim to make everything from scratch. Certainly not. Sorry. What was the other part of the question?
So how do you make
the
how
claims?
The claims.
Yeah, so the claims you've got to like really kind of tiptoe around. You've got numerous different regulation you've got to adhere to. You've got like the various different government bodies. We sell in both Australia and the United Kingdom, completely different regulations. In terms of claims, you've also got like the advertising standards who will look at this, but then generally just the UK government. So you've got to be quite strict and use claims that are either in relation and proved with clinical evidence in regards to the ingredient, but be very clear you're talking about that ingredient, or do your own clinical research, and then start using that, which we've just done recently, some user trials.
And then given, we'll come on to it in a little bit, it is quite a category leading, unique product in terms of what it does, and that space doesn't really exist in the UK. But I want to touch on that in a minute. But when you first came to the branding, you know, both of your branding is beautiful. You can tell that you've both got sort of marketing polished backgrounds. How do you have the confidence that people are going to use it, buy it again at the very early start, just when you were launching or pre-launch? How did you know? What did you do to try and ensure that there was a market for it?
I mean, I didn't certainly do any research on it. I just knew that there were no products to help me. So, and I knew I wouldn't have been alone. When you think about it and you do the research, 90% of people have stretch marks. It's not just pregnant women. You get it at the gym, you get it, with weight changes, and you get it like through growth spurts. We have a lot of parents that buy for their teenagers who are going through growth spurts and are really uncomfortable in changing rooms because they've got them on the thighs or something like that. It's a really, really common skin concern, and yet it was just completely overlooked. So I didn't need to do the research, and I didn't, to be honest.
But obviously there's a market gap there, but in terms of the pricing, the product, the positioning, everything like that, was that?
It was a bit, to be honest. It was, what would I pay? Being, obviously pregnant women are the core demographic and people we were going after in the first instance, for something that worked. So what would I pay for something that works? And kind of work back from there a bit. So just to make sure, and also like I wanted we're sort of masstige pricing, I'd say. But I think you kind of need to be in that space if you're solving stretch marks. Like, I don't think people are going to buy something that costs £10 and expect it to actually work. They want a really sophisticated science-led formula. So that's what we developed. And then, our pricing matches, the cost of developing and getting it to market.
Perfect. And then I guess same with you, Erim. I think from working with you, there's two types of people that I've met: people that know everything about Ayurvedic products and hair oils and recognize the products, the smells, and love it, and then people like me that were quite new to it. How did you know it was going to work? What did you do any validation at all in terms of the product, the packaging, the positioning, the price? What gave you that confidence that you had something that you knew could sell and sustainably sell?
I just did a lot of like market research. Like, I just was looking, okay, how much milliliter are the leading hair oils? What are they charging? What is our USP? Are we offering more or like less than them? More is the answer to that, by the way. And yeah, I just did that. I just looked at what was on the market as it stood and where we sat amongst them. There also is a bit of guesswork. Like, I didn't know it was going to work. That's why I only got 250 units. If I knew they were going to sell out within 4 hours, I would have got like 1,000.
And just on that, which we contextualize, do you just want to give us a bit more context as to the products that you both have? Erim, maybe start with you in terms of the product range, what they do and what they are.
So I have sold 120,000 units of hair oil. This is an 8 oil hair and beard product. So you've got amla, argan, almond, castor, coconut, lavender, rosemary, bergamot. Each oil has a different molecular weight and a different benefit. So you've got something like amla, really high in antioxidants, coconut for shine, castor to support growth, and rosemary to stimulate follicles. Now we've expanded based off the DNA of this oil into the likes of shampoo, conditioner, scrub, which is my favorite product. We're also, we've got a few like accessories like hair wrap and hair brush, which sold 2,002 minutes when we first launched it. But we actually have a new product that we're coming up with, which is a weightless oil, which I'm really excited about. It'll be like hopefully in an aerosol spray.
Amazing. And it smells incredible.
Thank you.
Completely obsessed. Meg, same question for you, your products.
Yeah, I just want to go back to what you were asking a second ago in terms of like market research. I certainly did what Erin did. I thought you were asking more around like, did I do Google research, what people searching for and things like that? And I didn't really do that. That came a bit afterwards. But yeah, absolutely look at the market. Who's currently playing there? Where does your price sit? How do you justify the price and everything? I think that's like really good advice. In terms of like the product range, so we're really best known for our program, which is a 12-week program to treat stretch marks. So you have a cream that you apply twice daily, and then once a week you use our serum and micro needling tool to get the results. So we kind of have the treatment for stretch marks, and then we also have an oil as well, which helps prevent against stretch marks developing in the first place.
I'm going to go off script, but in terms of education, how do you both counter that? Because Meg, I suppose the challenge is that people want immediacy in their results. They want a magic cream, and in order to get sort of the best results, you're committing to 12 weeks. It is a new type of product, a new type of category that people aren't necessarily used to. They haven't grown up with other products that do similar. You've got to counter all of that and sell. What's your strategy? Or what's your strategy? What are your recommendations for people that have markets that are sort of relatively new, and how you find your customers, how you educate them, and how you get them into the sales channel without violating your cost per sale?
Yeah. So I think Erim and I have very much grown our businesses in two completely different ways. I have not prioritized socials at all. It's only really probably the last couple of weeks that we've started to post on socials. So really we found our customers firstly really on Amazon, actually, because people were actively searching on Amazon for them. I feel like I've gone off topic again. So yeah, on Amazon, people are actively in the market to purchase. So if they're looking up stretch mark solutions, you're already a step ahead. In terms of us, we grew then after Amazon, we then grew on Meta. And that's really our main engine now, to be honest. And it is education. We have to really develop product videos that show the transformation. I think something like stretch marks, which are essentially, scars in the dermal level, you can't expect to treat them immediately. We did actually launch with a cream that had an instant kind of tint and a warming effect that plumped your stretch marks to give that instant confidence. And customer feedback just found it annoying, to be honest. So we took it out and simplified it. So yeah, we were very much aware of that though in the early days. It's hard, really hard. But then you look at Glow for It, and they do the lash serums, and that takes 12 weeks to get results as well. So, it's possible. It does make it harder, but you do need to show the transformations. That's what people are looking for, and that's what I was searching for when I had the stretch marks and wanted to know how to treat them.
Fair enough. And same with you, Erim. I guess, I don't know if it's fair, but there is going to be a group of people that know exactly what the products do and are, because they've grown up for them and intrinsically get them. But then there is a piece of education as well for what is the hair oil, what is the scrub oil, what's Ayurvedic mean? How do you counter that education in order to bring people in to be customers?
So we try to bring in as much objective proof as possible. So where I'm currently training to be a trichologist, that gives it that credibility that no, there's science, because yes, our first product was oil based, but now, we have complex products, shampoo, conditioner, hair mist, the scalp scrub is incredible. So we do a lot of in real life activations. So we do focus groups. Majority, if not actually every single model on my website, aside from myself, but also including myself, is a user of the product prior to actually joining us on a photo shoot. And we also have at our pop-ups a microscope where we're showing people what their scalp currently looks like, what it could look like, a device that checks the oil content, the moisture in their scalp, and all sorts of things, because it's all well and good in this day and age, me talking a big game and trying to sell ice to the Eskimos, but realistically, people are smart. Meg's customers are very smart. They actually know probably the difference between tretinoin and a retin-A or retinol, whereas back in the day, you probably could just do that QVC selling approach. So we really try and use objective measures of effectiveness as much as we can, instead of just talking about it.
And obviously, social is such a massive part of your sales, your marketing channels. You also do pop-ups. You do a lot. You seem to work about 24 hours a day. But as a founder, as a business owner, what are the types of metrics? What are the 2 or 3 metrics that you keep an eye on day in, day out? Is it marketing? Is it leads? Is it conversion rates? Is it profit? What's the 2 or 3 numbers?
I mean, to be obvious, it is the daily revenue. I do be checking that one multiple times a day. But to be honest, cost is something that's really important for us. We own all of our stock and we own our own warehouse. So unit cost isn't something that we care about right now, just because it's covered. But certain things like staff cost, like pop-up cost, product development cost, lab cost, those types of things are really impactful to the bottom line, especially as we're scaling into retail, which I know you'll touch on later. So we are always keeping an eye on that.
And same with you, Meg. Same question.
Yeah, so I think numbers pivot. I think in the early days for me, it was like, right, let's prove, let's prove that we have a market here and product market fit. So all I was focused on was acquisitions and how much we had coming in. I wasn't really leaning into retention at that point because, what's the point in marketing to a 100-person email database? You've got to focus your efforts on driving that acquisition funnel. So I say day to day now, a conversion rate is a big one I look at just to see how effectively our advertising is performing. So yeah, unlike Erim, who kind of has a strong social first push, I'm spending money on adverts. So if they're not converting, something's wrong. So I do have a really close eye on that. And then, the three things that double your growth, right? So we focus on if you have a 30% improvement in your conversion rate, a 30% improvement in your AOV, and a 30% improvement in your retention, you're more than doubling your business. So don't try and focus on, doubling your conversion rate overnight. Just focus on the little incremental improvements, and it makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's we always tell people is that at the bottom of the funnel, any micro adjustments to that has a massive impact on your retention. Sorry,
yeah, we've recently. Oh, sorry.
I wanted to add to that. So speaking to you mentioned like don't just focus on 100 customers, focus on acquisition. I completely agree with you. I would say that those 100 customers, if they refer you via word of mouth, that's A, zero CPA, and B, a much stronger form of like an intro to the brand than like a meta ad. So I would say if you can focus on acquisition and those first 100 customers, I think that you're sitting perfectly in that space of organic and then paid advertising.
Yeah, I think that's already, 100%. I think for me, I was doing this around kids and I'm always part-time. So I just also had to know I can only focus on one thing at a time and just, to make sure my time was going as far as it possibly could. Because I totally agree. Those first 100 of customers are so special. And
Yeah.
if you can nurture them as much as you can, 100%.
Yes.
I think on limited time and limited budget, I was just focusing on getting the acquisition channel going and just making sure we had something
Yeah.
to grow. But we've
Right.
recently switched to subscription. Sorry,
Yes.
because this is like key to me now. Subscription is life. It is incredible. You wake up every morning and you've done so many sales. It's great, and it makes such a huge difference to your profit margin. So I'd really encourage anyone that has the ability to like turn on subscriptions to do it. So one of my main things I look at now is retention, and look at each cohort every month. We change things. Are they getting leaflets at each part of the journey? What are they receiving in emails? Every little bit of the journey, and analyze how many of those customers from that month are kind of carrying through. It's a huge one now.
I guess your product lends itself to subscription, even though I remember when you first went onto it during the Breakout program, I was like, oh, I don't know if that's the right idea. And you've very humbly proved me wrong. What were the challenges with going onto subscription? Like, did that change your conversion rates, your cost per acquisition? Did it?
Do you know, it's only had positive effects. So I think there's that initial stage where people are just like, I don't want to have to go on subscription. So we've made our program subscription only. You can get individual units as one-time purchases, but the program now is subscription only. And there's a few reasons for that, mostly because, as we mentioned before, this is a commitment. You have to follow it for the 12 weeks. And if people are just buying it one-off, they don't get the results and they get frustrated. And as on subscription, we can really hold their hand through the whole journey and chat to them every month with top-ups and what they need to be doing. So it's actually it's really helped. Initially, it was a killer on our cash flow because we went from the program, the full kit being 80, 90 pounds to subscription of 40 pounds for the initial purchase. So massive drop overall. So October, we were really feeling it. It was very, very tight, but now it's paying dividends. It was like short-term pain for a long-term gain, and it's cumulative, So subscription is really such an amazing thing if it works for your business.
I imagine it's a great great metric to take to retailers as well, which I'd love to come on now. So part of the Breakout Beauty UK program, which obviously I'm going to be plugging like hell throughout this, was trying to demystify getting into retail. And specifically, we worked with Boots last year with a cohort to try and get people to understand what they needed to change about their business to get into retail, the ins and outs of retail, what that means to your business, your product, your claims, your packaging, everything. And I guess first of all, Meg, obviously you had a consumer brand before, a consumer company. Like, what was it you learned or surprised you about retail that you hadn't really considered in terms of taking both your respective brands into retail?
Yeah, so retail doesn't make or break a brand. You think, I remember before launching Beach, I was like, gosh, if I get in Vogue, we've made it. Newsflash, if you get in Vogue, you might get one sale for the day.
Yeah.
And I think going to retail is a bit similar, right? You think, oh, we're going to be on the shelf in Selfridges or whatever. I'm like, well, we've made it now. It's just not the case. You have to go in at the right time when you can sustain it. Retail, with Beach, we were about to launch in Oliver Bonas, Sephora EU, Selfridges in spring of COVID. Obviously, COVID hit, that all fell through. And then we had like major cash flow issues because we were really relying on taking a bit of a retailer first strategy. This time I've like not even been chatting to retailers until starting the Breakout Beauty program because I didn't feel ready. And I wanted to choose a very strategic retailer. Because not only do you need to like make sure you nurture the relationship and send marketing support their way so that you're converting and people actually going in store, picking out your product, buying it. Because otherwise you'll get delisted straight away, right? But also, it's a nightmare logistically. I'm sure, Erim can talk more to this, but it is, there are a lot of things that are required to go into, especially a really big retailer. You have to package things in a certain way, send it into the warehouse in a certain box, with certain labels. And so logistically, it's quite a time suck. But then also the cash flow. The terms are awful. Generally, unless you've got strong negotiation powers. But you can sometimes like have a gap between them placing an order to you getting paid of about 6 months. So you've got to make sure you're in the position to do that. So yeah, can you place a really big order and wear the brunt of it for 6 months? And then once you're in, can you afford to support that account with big, strong marketing to make sure the account works?
I think that's the biggest one for us, is that people assume once you go on a shelf, it will automatically be brought up. And I think that the challenge you've also got, Meg, is that you are a new category, you are a new product. I think what's interesting is that that's been really exciting for retailers, but equally it creates a challenge because you are a new category and you've got the model. But you've got retailers clamoring after you to get on. And is that, where are you with that? Is that an opportunity? Is that a challenge? Are you still looking to go in ASAP or?
Yeah, no, certainly not ASAP. I don't think I ever really, came into Breakout Beauty wanting to go ASAP. I think we had those conversations, but it was like a great opportunity to start those warm leads. In an ideal world, it'd be later this year, early next year, spring. I think there'll be perfect timing for us so we can really build our socials, which is, as I mentioned, we really haven't, we're quite poor at. And get those people in. Yeah, we're having very warm conversations at the moment with Space NK and Boots, which is great. But yeah, at the right time. It is tough, as you say, it's a new category. In Boots, it's like, where does it sit? It will sit in body and hand care, most likely. But, we need to make sure it's positioned as stretch mark care. It's not body care. It's not, you're not going to be applying it to your hands or your feet or your legs. It's targeted. It's a targeted treatment. So we just need to make sure that when we're ready and when they're ready, we're marketing it and it's set out in a certain way in stores, because otherwise it will fall flat.
Amazing. And I can see a few questions coming in. Please keep the questions. We'll come on to you very, very shortly. Erim came into the program. Boots committed to stocking to the winners in 10 stores, but you're going into 50 later in the summer, which is incredible. What's happening behind the scenes? Like, how are you transforming from D2C and pop-ups that you've been doing to a retail brand? What's been the reality of that?
So I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm bad at. And the whole corporate world is like not what I'm good at. So first thing I did was hire some grown-ups. We have a salesperson who is renowned in the Boots office as being fantastic at negotiating things and just operating very efficiently. So hired him. And then I also hired an operations manager. So that was off the back of some advice, which is I needed to have my infrastructure right before we scaled. And we were kind of just living month to month in terms of like stock and inventory and not really having a solid supply chain. So she's now come in and she's judging everything up. The main thing that keeps me up at night though is our packaging. So ensuring that it's compliant with the Boots necessities, and it is really deep. They want like a certain font size of the milliliterage, the fluid ounces on the front of the bottle. I'm looking at them and I've got 600 units of that existing packaging in my warehouse. How do we pivot? So that has been a really difficult project for us, which is ongoing.
Anything else in terms of like operations, in terms of the team, in terms of?
I think it's more of a mindset shift. So I don't know if it was you who told me this, but we were just kind of living day to day, if that makes sense. And now we're looking months in advance, planning things in advance. And for myself, like, yeah, there's a small fish, like making a couple of K a day at a pop-up, or there's the big fish of a six-figure deal with Boots. And almost I feel like I'd like to bury my head in the sand, or, the marble of Westfield and just sell all day and go home. But I think it is that shift mentally to be like, no, it's hard, it's sticky, it's icky, it's messy, but let's tackle the big problems of the packaging, of the Boots contract, and all those things, which I think is where my head's at.
Fair. And then to finish off, I think one thing we've always talked about, there's a real fetishization in the startup world about hustle culture and, reality. Meg, you mentioned it. You're a mother with kids trying to run a successful business. You work 26 hours a day. You're doing 1,000 different things. Like, how do you keep sane? How do you keep grounded? How do you keep resilient? Any tips for startup founders out there?
Can I go first?
Yeah, go
Go
ahead.
on.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
me. For me, it's a lean on the people around you. Yeah, and your networks are so key to me. Like my husband, my mum are really key to keeping me grounded and sane, especially when it comes to the kids too, because there's always mum guilt involved. So you just want to make sure that balance is all around. But I think networks for me have been really key, and just networks generally in the industry, because as Erim said before, you can spend 3 months looking for a manufacturer. You just ask someone and then get the right person straight away. So sometimes you just spend a lot of time going around in circles trying to get an answer, and actually, your next networks could have helped on that and alleviated the stress.
Oh, Paul knows. I'll be texting him madnesses. Okay, so what do we do about this? I think it's having humility. Like I said to you guys, I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm bad at. And as Meg kind of mentioned, to lean into that further, I can just summarize that in one word as delegation. So I make sure that I have hired, and I spend so much time hiring people. I have a rigorous process for recruitment. I train them. They're like almost by my side, no matter what the role is, because I can do every role in my company because I started it myself. So I make sure they're by my side. So they're learning the way that we like to do it. A big part for us when we hire people is the company values. So we're very scrappy, we're very WhatsApp, we respond at 3 in the morning. That's the way that we are. So I need to hire like-minded people. They fit seamlessly, they get it. So when I have a particular task that I can't take on board myself, I can do the stuff I'm good at and leave the stuff I'm bad at. I can just kind of like almost say half the sentence to them and they're finishing the other half of the sentence and they're running. My company isn't red tape, legal, and some people work in that environment and some people don't, but I've hired the ones that like to be on WhatsApp at 3 in the morning, as you know.
Amazing. And then finally, before we get to questions, what are 3 things that you can attribute to making the brand the company that it is today? And what are 3 things that you did that you wish other founders would avoid?
I would definitely say, in terms of 3 things that I think are good, I really do feel like Breakout Beauty, I'm not just saying this, but like it came at the exact right time in my life. And I know all of us agree that the right time definitely wasn't Black Friday, heading up to Christmas. But in the grand scheme of it, like we all survived. We made it through doing the Breakout Beauty final at the same time as Black Friday. But that kind of stepped me out of my bubble because I think doing these things once in a while, it really helps you connect with other founders. It was a very honest space. Like Meg, me and you could have sat there on the steps in Boots and we would have told each other how much revenue, what our cost price is. And it's very rare to have that trusting environment. And I think Breakout Beauty really facilitated it. For me, the key part of my experience with you guys was going to Boots because I think you directed the question to Meg regarding like the whole retail side of things, but like my mind was blown when I went to the Boots headquarters and everything I learned about what that process looks like in a really big and official way. It prepared me so much for having now being sat here with a contract with Boots. So I would say push yourself out of your comfort zone. Try and apply for the Breakout Beauty Accelerator because it really did reframe the way that I look at things and it taught me so much. I would say make sure that you're a leader within your company. And that sounds very random, but really, if you're an artist, remain an artist. If you're a leader, be a leader. If you're an artist that wants to start a business, you are no longer going to be an artist. You're going to be a business person and a leader. And not everyone's personality works when they're pulled out of the business to look at it objectively instead of being inside and doing the thing that they're passionate about. And then the final thing I would say is understanding where you're at in life. So Meg is in a very different position to me. Like, I don't have kids. I'm 31. So I am heavy before I do into the world of let me just do this whilst I can. And we don't know how many months, years left I have of this period of my life, but I know this is where I'm at. Therefore, I am going in 100%. Whereas Meg knows where she's at. So she is adapting the way that she does business to her. There's no point either one of us swapping each other's hustle mentality.
Yeah.
Thank you. Beautifully
I
put.
got some great tips there. Thanks, Erin.
Meg, so impressive for you.
We, so yeah, in terms of Breakout Beauty, because go on the back of what Erin's talked about, I think for me it was, I've said it to Paul before, I put a rocket up my ass and I needed it because I have been doing this as a side hustle for a long time. Around the kids, and I've very much treated it as that. I never took it really as a serious business, but I knew the business was growing and we were really, really onto something. And I was like, right, I need to get out there. I need to start networking again and start giving this business the energy it deserves. And Breakout Beauty, as Erin said, couldn't have come at a bad time for me. It really was perfect. So yeah, I think that was the best thing, and having warm leads with Boots. And also I think it was fantastic at like bringing holistically what you need to start a business. So we had regulatory, legal,
Yeah.
marketing, Boots. Like he spent 2 days at Boots HQ. How cool is that?
Yeah.
And TikTok Shop. So there was so much to it that really was a great grounding. And we've been doing this a while. We already knew a lot of those contacts, but you still learn from everyone we met. There were always so many learnings you can take away and new contacts to make. So I think that was, one of the main things for me. In terms of what, like, I feel my business has done well, I think we've built really lean. We've done this like really on a shoestring. We built our website for like £500, and we've lent on Fiverr people so much. Like I'd say, like build it really lean, use freelancers as much as possible. I don't have any employees. It's still just me and two people now that are both working kind of part-time, which is very exciting. But we're still early and it doesn't have the funds to do that yet. Yeah, I think sooner we'll grow, but keep it lean, use working capital as long as you possibly can, keep that ownership, because once you bring investors on, it really does change the dynamic so much. But in a good way. But you have to make sure, as everyone was saying, it's the right stage of your life. Like right now, I don't think I could be working full time on this, and having the pressures of reporting to investors and everything, because it has, I've got the lifestyle balance as well. I've got a 5 and a 3-year-old, so I have to make sure they remain the priority. But in years to come, absolutely. The other thing I'd like really recommend, it's a really random one, but marketing agencies. We, like, our cohort shared a lot of like war stories with marketing
Yeah.
agencies and how they took us for a ride, promised
Yeah.
us the world, didn't deliver, and cost us a lot of money. I experienced that at Beached, and I have not experienced that again since. Because every marketing agency I work with, they're normally kind of young, young startups themselves and have grown with the business, but I always make sure there's a guarantee or performance-based commission underpinning the whole relationship. So if I am paying a fixed price every month, which is very rare for anything, then they've got to guarantee results. Otherwise, otherwise I get the money back. So it's worked really well. I think, if marketing agencies can't back themselves, then why should we? So
don't agree. I think just to plug some of our upcoming webinars, we've got a couple on working capital and financing your business, as well as investors, and are you investable and when to get investment and what that means to your business as well. We've got some fantastic investors and financial people going to do those. So I think two last reflections I'll do. I think, Meg, you seem to always have a real view on numbers, retention rates, what's going on in the business on every single day, which is, I think, something that everyone can learn from. And Erim, I don't know how you do it, but your customers are evangelical about you, your product, your brand, and you've created these ambassadors all over the country that absolutely adore everything that you do. I don't think everyone can do that, but those are two things I think that, on reflection, I've seen that have helped you scale your business. Sonia, I've asked you many questions and spoken too much. I know there's lots of questions. I'm going to hand over to the questions for Meg and Erim.
Yeah, that's right. No, actually, thank you so much, girls, because it's so interesting also to listen, right? There's distinctively two different brands and circumstances, but I think everyone has a lot of things to relate and things that come together, and it's actually shown in the questions that have come up. Now, there's a couple of questions that I've saw come up. I wanted to mention, actually, before we start, we've got 15 minutes for Q&A, but if we can always kind of give an extra 5 minutes in case we want some more questions to come in. But there's one particular one that kind of kept coming up, and I thought it's a great one to start. And it's the question of, if there's one thing you wish you knew or one thing you wish you had changed before you all started, what would that one thing be? And Meg, I'll get you to start with that thought.
Yeah, I think it was kind of comes back to what I just said, really, which is about, keep it really lean, prove the product market fit before you kind of take working capital and that sort of thing. I think for me, that's just, really helped. And the marketing side of things. I guess I have the war wounds from Beach, which I've then not kind of brought forward from Striā, because I just learned so much from that experience. So yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't got something particularly new to share on that one.
I think mine would be
that's fine, Erim.
Yeah, I would have hired some grown-ups from the start, because it was really me just doing it and working it out, and my dad stepping in, and maybe my assistant. I'm an influencer as well, so I have like two businesses. She was kind of helping me. I think we were just piecing everything together, and I think if anything, like, we were too lean. So I would have hired someone official from the beginning. So now I wouldn't be sat here 6 years down the line being like, oh, who's my supplier for this thing? Oh, they vanished. Okay, what do we do now? We've been out of stock for 3 months. So yeah, I would have had some official people sooner.
That's fair enough. And again, it's so interesting to see that, you both have very different ideas on what would have helped you at the very beginning. And talking about obviously your journeys, it was the founder journey is never an easy one, but a very exciting one. And a question that comes up quite often and quite all the time, and one that's come up now is, what do you do to stay motivated at the beginning when you started? I know, Meg, you alluded to making sure you have people next, like near and dear to you, that keep you motivated. But, what if something has gone wrong? What has kind of kept you going? I guess I want to extend that question to say, what kind of advice can you give to a founder who may be struggling right now in their journey? Meg, actually, why don't you start if you had that kind of initial thought?
Yeah. I mean, it's a really tricky one, because there's so many other external factors outside of a business that go into like you getting to that point. I think, for me, as I said, it was a side hustle, not only around the kids, but a year into launching this, I took on a new job with a client in Australia. And I also have, a consultant at another startup as well. So I was like, when I say side hustle, it was a side hustle around two other jobs and my family, and working part-time and having the kids and stuff. So I think, What keeps me motivated, honestly, is reviews and good feedback. You take everything in startup life so personally. Like it is your baby.
Mm.
And every negative review really that will get me down more than a bad sales day.
Yeah.
Like that's it really hits hard.
Yeah.
But a positive you just know you're onto something. And that just keeps you going. And to be honest, I love startup world. I don't really get up going, oh, why am I doing this? I sometimes think, oh, should I spend more time with the kids? It's the right time, stuff like that. But I love startup world. I really enjoy it. I love the business. I just love, making an impact on people's skin when they, don't have their confidence to put a bikini on in the summer or something. Like it's really nice to know what you're doing. But yeah, I think those reviews, any sort of positive feedback you get from anyone is just really what keeps me going.
I love that. Erin, what about you? What has your experience been, and maybe some advice for fellow founders?
I definitely agree with Meg, by the way, like that 5-star review, especially when it's unprompted, when you haven't been like, oh my God, you just received your order. Can you leave us a review? When they just do it and it's detailed and they're like noticed the little note that you put in there and called it out and mention how quick the delivery is after you've just changed the courier that you're using. Like it is, as we were talking about earlier, I can't remember who said it, but it's like the little 1% that add up to 100% better,
Mm.
right? So yeah, I love those. I love the face-to-face moments because I'm very face-to-face with my customers where they were like, I bought it from you last week and I have to tell you it was amazing and I've come back and I want to buy 17 more. Like that's really, really fun. I love my team. The majority of them have been with me, besides the two new people, for like 3 years minimum. My marketing girl has been with me for like 5 years. And almost if we have a bad sales month, like I feel bad in our report, like, guys, we didn't. And I felt like when we get a good opportunity, my company culture is so hearts first. Like we lead with our heart with Erim. I feel the genuine excitement, like it's a joint win. So I think team culture has been really important for me to motivate me moving forward. I feel like they're my kids. They're older than me, but I'm like, I want to tell you we did good this month. The advice that I'd give to any founder is stay ignorant and stay brave. So you don't need to know everything. You don't need to have researched everything. It can be off gut instinct. It can be off of a doubt that you're like, maybe this is the right price. But the longer that you spend researching things like that is a threshold where it's just like you've gone too far. You're now stalling. You're making excuses. Just be the bravest person. Go for it. And you'll learn and figure it out along the way. Like my 100 ml bottle of oil is iconically known as £40. I launched with £35 and we pivoted really fast. So you can live and learn. That's okay.
You know what?
We'll got over it eventually.
Do you know what, actually, Erin, that ends to a question that I just saw, and there's a couple of questions that I feel are more directed singularly between you two. And actually, one of the ones that they've been asking is, how do you grow your socials? Because Erin, we know you're an absolute kind of the social queen on with your brand, and like you said, you have almost like it's another business for you. And so I'm sure lots of founders are curious, how do you grow your following on socials when you start with zero?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take note too, Erin.
So I think it goes back to that first, let's say 100 customers. So I
Mm.
hand wrote all of the notes with their names. I have a list of them saved. And I think the more you pour into your existing community, instead of focusing on, oh, what can I go viral that would get me another follower, is
Mm.
is going to be the more effective way of not just gaining followers, because as an influencer, you gain and you lose followers. Um, that's the one that's going to be the authentic growth when you pour into your existing versus like constantly looking for ways to gain new followers. So look at more so your engagement than it is your follower growth. And I think when you have like one key supporter, as Paul mentioned, I've got like big advocates for Erim and for Erim. They will then tell their friends and they will then tell their mums. And the beautiful thing about this is as I transitioned out of that, I think age bracket is like 18 to 24. When I hit the 25 to 34 age bracket for myself personally, my audience actually grew up with me. And I think that's so cool because we're like staying with each other and we're growing and we're in different stages of life. Like I can't really talk about what life's like at uni anymore because I'm not at uni. Um, so yeah, pouring into your existing customers, knowing them really well. I respond to every comment and every DM. Best I can see, don't go check on it as much as I can. And making sure that things are incredibly aligned when it comes to opportunities. Like I got offered a lot of money from Johnny Walker to do a collaboration one Diwali, and I don't drink. And there's a really big problem of alcoholism in my community. So remaining true to your core values throughout that growth that people knew you from 5 years ago to 5 years later is key because people can smell fakery. And oftentimes it does happen quite a lot as you get bigger.
The thing I
That
love
was
about yours is Erin will be at this beautiful hotel having a glamorous night, and then the next morning there's you with boxes of
Yeah.
product at 4 o'clock in the morning going to pop up.
Yeah.
And you're quite open about your warts and all, like the great thing, but the physical impact of working too hard, and you do share warts and all, which I think is quite
Oh, well,
refreshing.
let's specify it was eczema.
Yeah.
I know the phrase, but guys, it was eczema on my eyelids. And I shared it. But you know what? I crowdsourced an answer because I have loads of Asians that follow me. That means I've got loads of doctors, really smart people, and they all gave me loads of advice. Like, it is so powerful when people care about you, not just in an aspirational, oh, pretty influencer with business and this looks cool, but when they care about you as a person. That relationship only comes after years, though. They didn't have to message me with their recommendations. So I do feel that kind of I feel that love for them as well. If they feel 1% of love towards me, I feel 2% of love towards them. It's really true.
Well, I was gonna say, I feel like you also touched upon it. There's a level of authenticity in the content you produce, and I think people resonate with that a lot. So with that in mind, we still got a few more minutes, but I'd love to give you girls a couple more questions because there's some really good stuff. And Meg, I want actually to direct this one to you because I actually thought this was really interesting. And it's when you have a product such as for Striā Lab, how do you approach when say the problem of stretch marks is quote unquote solved, right? So you have the subscription model and people say the stretch marks are gone. How do you focus that sort of customer acquisition or I guess what is your general response to a founder who is looking to do a similar business model as yourself?
Sorry, I'm not sure I quite understand the question.
So
Do you
it's,
want
let's say you
to?
have a product that's trying to solve a problem. So one of the fellow founders here is
Yeah.
asking, what if, let's say, the product you've done has solved this problem?
Mhm.
How do you maintain that customer acquisition or I guess that
So do you mean
repeat
once
customer?
you've got them, the retention?
Yeah,
Got it.
exactly.
Sorry. Um, yeah, so that's a really good one, and actually something that comes up a lot that we grapple with a lot, and even
Mm,
in conversations with retailers too. Because it's like, right, this is a 12-week program, you've got them for 12 weeks, then what next? They just go out of the funnel. And
mm,
honestly, it's something we're still working on. So we've got to like expand our range, do some more preventative measures as well. But also take, as I said earlier, take them on the journey. Yes, it's a 12-week program. It's a minimum of 12 weeks, so you can go more while you're still seeing improvement. And then you switch into a maintenance phase. So that's kind of how we position it and hold their hand through the process. But we also have to be realistic with the fact that, it might be a product that you use at certain points in your life and you come back to our brand. Um, I think I always come back to the fact that 90% of people have stretch marks, so that opportunity to acquire is mammoth when there's no one making the solutions. But yeah, it's much cheaper keeping a customer than it is acquiring a new one. So certainly something that we need to keep doing and iterating on and building that strong community. It's our main focus this year. Is building our social, start like a Facebook community, get people talking, sharing their experience, bring stretch marks out from hiding.
yeah. Oh, amazing. Great. And I would like to just do one closing question, and I do want to direct it now a little bit to the Breakout Beauty UK program you both participated in. And Erim, I'm going to start with you. What's the one thing the program pushed you to do that you wouldn't have done if it wasn't for the program?
Definitely hire people. They're like expensive, when they're like big, 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 big hires, but it felt like a risk that I was confident to make.
Amazing. Meg?
Yeah, do you know, it's going to sound really big, so bravo to you guys. But to go all in, as I said, like numerous times, I've been doing this around other jobs, around the kids and everything. And after going on the program, I really saw the potential of the brand, like that I hadn't even seen before. I knew there was potential, but now I'm like, wow, this could be really, really big. And I quit the job, I'm going all in, I'm really focused and going for it this year.
I think that's what we found in this sector more so than any others that we've worked in. That was our 86th, 87th accelerator programs. We've done this a lot, hence, having no hair left. But I think people didn't recognize quite how good they were or quite how much potential they had. And I sort of felt a lot of imposter syndrome, or a lot of like, oh, I don't belong here in the sector in general. But I think going all in, I think being quite vulnerable to sharing your baby and put it up to scrutiny with lots of people, and going into the ride has definitely, we had some fantastic breakthroughs, quite difficult conversations, but yeah, hopefully everyone's stronger and bigger as a consequence. Everyone seems to be killing it afterwards, which is fantastic. So I'm very conscious of time.
Yes, I actually think this is a great place to close if we agree. Paul, before I allow you to do some closing remarks, I just wanted to do a little housekeeping closures. I did want to mention to everyone here that the session has been recorded, so please keep an eye out to your inboxes. We will be sharing with everyone, and it will be on our YouTube channel, so have a look. I think there's definitely a few things that we've heard today that need a little revisiting. I've also pasted a bunch of different links for everyone to follow us on our socials, and anyone that's interested in pre-registering some interest. Breakout Beauty is coming back for this summer, so we're really excited, and we hope that today's session also kind of show the influence that a program like this can have for someone in the same journey as we've seen today. And then one last little boring thing is we do have a survey that's going to come out. And I'd really love everyone to take like just 60 seconds of your time to answer them. It will help us to improve future webinars. So thanks, everyone. That's enough of my boring bits. Paul, go ahead.
As I said, we've got webinars coming up on how two of the best known brands in the UK got into retail. Yeah. We've got a couple of celebrity founders that we're going to be talking to them about how they got to where they did. We've got sessions on raising investment, how to do it, when to start, where to start, what that means to your business, as well as raising capital. So you might want to give away equity, you might just want to get some cash. What's the mechanics of that for your business? And then load more webinars, so please do keep an eye.
Can I just add to that, Paul, because that's such a good point. The links I've sent you, if you sign up to our founder community, you will be the first to know when these webinars come out, because there's some really impressive lineups. So I really don't want anyone to be able to miss them out. Sorry, I just really want to say, like, the links there, then you'll know when they're coming.
Absolutely, but do those surveys so these can be more useful, more impactful, more helpful. Erim and Meg, thank you so much. Where can people find you, follow you, hunt you down?
Yeah, just search either Erim or Striā Lab or by Erim. All of it.
That's it.
Perfect. Well, Erim, everyone should be able to hopefully buy you in Boots in September. So far, please go to Striā Lab and you can buy a product there. Thank you so much. We'll be sharing everything online. But thank you for your questions. Thank you for your time. And thanks for sharing everything with us, Meg, Erim, and thank you, Sonia, for making it all happen.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.